Caleb took my badge. Until the paperwork clears in DC, which takes weeks, I am still the registered keeper of the keys. I logged into the external government portal. It's a drab, gray website that looks like it was designed in 1998, but it has more security layers than the Pentagon. Two-factor authentication, a hardware token, and a password that is 32 characters of gibberish. Access granted. I navigated to the asset status page. There they were, the 3 audit nodes. Node 1, offline safe in the server room. Node 2, offline safe in the backup vault. Node 3, active. My stomach dropped. Node 3 was the laptop I left on the table. It shouldn't be active. It should have gone into sleep mode the moment my biometrics were removed from the immediate vicinity for more than 10 minutes. Unless he forced a hard reboot, I muttered to the empty room. I watched the logs populate in real time. The timestamps were glowing in amber text against the black background. 11:42 a.m., hard reset initiated. 11:45 a.m., BIOS challenge failed. 11:46 a.m., BIOS challenge failed. 11:50 a.m., admin override attempted user, Croth admin. He was trying to brute force a federally encrypted machine using his corporate admin credentials. It was like trying to open a bank vault with a library card. Caleb, you absolute moron, I whispered. I took a sip of water, my eyes glued to the screen. Every failed attempt was being logged not just on the machine, but on the mirrored server at the agency. He was flagging himself. With every incorrect password, he was waving a giant digital flag that said, "Hi, I am unauthorized and I am touching sensitive material." Then the log changed color. Red, 12:05 p.m., perimeter breach alert intrusion detected on port 8080. He wasn't just trying to log in. He had plugged it into the open internet. I closed my eyes and pinched the bridge of my nose. The audit nodes are air-gapped devices. They are never, ever supposed to touch the public web. They connect only via a secure, encrypted tunnel. By plugging an Ethernet cable into it, or worse, connecting it to the office Wi-Fi, Caleb had just exposed a classified endpoint to the wild internet. This wasn't a firing offense anymore. This was a federal agents in windbreakers showing up at your house offense. I had a choice. I could call him. I could call the office, get him on the line, and scream at him to unplug it before the automated sweepers found it. I could save his career. I could save the company the massive fine they were about to incur. I reached for my phone. I dialed the main office line. "Thank you for calling," I hung up. "Redundant," I said aloud. "I'm redundant." If I was redundant, then my warnings were redundant too. Instead, I opened a new email window. I typed in the address of my handler at the agency. Let's call him Agent Miller. Miller is a man who has no sense of humor and even less patience for incompetence. Subject: Notice of status change / potential asset compromise Agent Miller. Effective 09:00 a.m. today, my employment with company name was terminated. I was ordered to surrender custody of Audit Node 3, serial hash 8892 Alpha, to Mr. Caleb Roth, VP of Technology. Despite my verbal warning regarding chain of custody protocols, I am observing erratic activity on the asset beacon. I am no longer on premises and cannot intervene. Please advise. Regards, Grace. I hit send. The beauty of the system is the bureaucracy. I had done my duty. I had reported the separation. I had reported the asset location. Whatever happened next was entirely, 100% on Caleb. I refreshed the log page. 12:15 p.m., directory structure accessed via guest protocol. He had managed to bypass the login screen using a guest account exploit, an old trick that works on consumer Windows but triggers a honeypot mode on these secure machines. The machine lets you think you're in. It shows you folders. It lets you click things. But it's recording every keystroke, every mouse movement, and it's sandboxing you in a digital cage while it traces your location. Caleb thought he had cracked it. I could practically see him high-fiving the other bros in the conference room. "Look at this," he'd say. Grace locked it down, but I got in. "I'm a genius." He was browsing the honeypot files. He was opening folders labeled Confidential Budget and Black Project Alpha. These folders were empty decoys, digital flypaper. But then I saw the metadata tag for a file he uploaded to the machine. File name, Do Pitch Deck Final V2. PPTX size, 45 MB. He wasn't just looking. He was using the classified laptop to store his own presentation. He was treating a government audit node like a USB stick. I leaned back in my chair. The silence of the house felt heavy, charged with static. "You didn't just touch the stove, Caleb," I said, watching the cursor blink. "You just climbed inside the oven." To understand why Caleb is currently dancing on a landmine, you have to understand how I got hired. 7 years ago, this company, let's call them FinCorp, landed a massive contract to process transaction data for a sub-agency of the DoD. It was the kind of money that buys executive second homes in Aspen, but with that money came the clause. The clause stated that FinCorp had to maintain a localized, hardened infrastructure for data validation. No cloud, no Oz, no Google Drive, just cold, hard steel in a locked room, managed by a custodian with a specific level of security clearance. That's me. I wasn't hired because of my sparkling personality or my ability to pivot tables in Excel. I was hired because I hold a TS/PSI clearance with a polygraph chaser. I am the human requirement for their billion-dollar revenue stream. For the first 5 years, the old CTO, a guy named Marcus, understood this. Marcus was great. He wore cargo shorts and looked like he slept in a server rack, but he respected the hardware. He knew that when I said no, it wasn't a suggestion. It was a law of physics. Grace is the wall, Marcus used to say. We don't drill holes in the wall. Then Marcus retired to raise alpacas in Vermont, and the board decided they wanted fresh energy. They wanted a disruptor. Enter Caleb. I remember his first week. He walked into my office, which was actually a converted storage closet next to the server room because I needed to be close to the metal, and wrinkled his nose. "Little dark in here, isn't it?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe, sipping a green juice that cost more than my hourly rate. "Keeps the heat down," I said, not looking up from my monitors. "Right. Listen, Grace, I'm looking at the org chart, and I'm seeing a lot of hardware dependency in your sector. We need to virtualize this. Move it to the lake." "The lake?" I asked, finally turning my chair. "The data lake, the cloud. We need to be agile. You can't virtualize the audit nodes," I said simply. "They're air-gapped by federal mandate. Clause 4, Section B of the contract." He rolled his eyes. "Everything can be virtualized, Grace. You just need to have the vision for it, you legacy IT types. You're so attached to your boxes. It's cute, really, like collecting vinyl records. Cute." That was the moment. That was the exact second I decided that if this man ever fell off a cliff, I wouldn't be the one throwing him a rope. He saw me as a relic, a middle-aged woman in a cardigan who plugged things in and turned them off and on again. He didn't see the complexity of the encryption I managed. He didn't see the daily attacks I deflected. He didn't see that I was the only reason his email didn't get read by teenagers in basements in generic non-extradition countries. He saw a janitor. Over the next few months, he chipped away at my department. He fired my junior admin, a bright kid named Leo, because Leo refused to install unauthorized monitoring software on the employee network. He cut our budget for spare parts. He started calling the server room the museum. I took it. I kept my head down. I documented every denied request, every policy violation, every sarcastic email. I knew guys like Caleb. They float upward on a bubble of hot air until they hit an altitude where the oxygen runs out. But I never thought he'd be stupid enough to fire the compliance officer. Back in the present, I stared at the blinking cursor on my screen at home. The honeypot on the laptop was active. Caleb was currently exploring a folder I had created a year ago called Project Ghost. It contained absolutely nothing of value, just gigabytes of random noise data that looked like encrypted code. But to a guy like Caleb, it looked like the Holy Grail. I remembered a conversation from 2 weeks ago. Caleb had been bragging about a pitch he was making to a defense contractor, Lockheed, names changed for legal reasons, obviously. He needed a wow factor. He needed to show them that FinCorp wasn't just a bank, it was a tech powerhouse. "I need something sexy," he had said, pacing around my office while I tried to work. "I need to show them we have military-grade analytics." "We don't," I had said. "We process payments. We aren't spies." Not with that attitude, he'd sneered. And now, looking at the logs, seeing that due pitch deck file sitting on the secure drive, I realized what he was doing. He was going to use the audit node, a mysterious black government-stamped laptop, as a prop. He was going to walk into a meeting with a defense contractor, open up a classified government machine, and say, "Look what I built." He wasn't just incompetent, he was suicidal. I felt a strange pang of sadness. Not for him, God no, but for the sheer waste of it. He had a degree from Wharton. He had a jagged jawline. He had a future. He was about to trade it all for a cool PowerPoint presentation. I minimized the log window and opened a fresh document. I titled it Chronology of Compromise. I started typing. Date, October 14th. Event, unauthorized seizure of federal asset. Actor, Caleb Roth. I wasn't writing a diary. I was writing an affidavit because when the dust settled, there would be an inquiry. And I intended to be the one holding the pen, not the one in the handcuffs. There is a saying in my line of work: you can delete the file, but you can't delete the shadow. Metadata is the shadow. It's the story about the data. It tells you who created it, when they touched it, what machine they were on, and how long they stared at it. Caleb thinks that because he has the physical laptop, he has control. He doesn't understand that the laptop is just a terminal. The brain is watching him. I spent the afternoon compiling the dossier. It was tedious work, but satisfying, like popping bubble wrap. Evidence item A, the log of him connecting the laptop to the boardroom Wi-Fi. Evidence item B, the timestamp of him disabling the antivirus, which, unbeknownst to him, only disabled the notification icon, not the actual protection. Evidence item C, the screenshot of him attempting to copy the honeypot files to a thumb drive. That last one was particularly damning. System flagged the USB drive as generic mass storage vendor ID, unrecognized. He was trying to take data off a secure machine onto an insecure stick. That's a Tier 1 violation. That's lose your clearance forever territory. But the cherry on top was the webcam logs. The audit nodes are equipped with security cameras that snap a photo every time there's a failed login or a security flag. Caleb had generated about 40 flags in 3 hours. I opened the image cache. There he was, grainy, black and white, lit by the glow of the screen. In one photo, he was frowning. In another, he was laughing, pointing at the screen while a blurry figure, probably a sycophantic junior manager, looked on. In the third, he was eating a burrito over the keyboard. Crumbs in the keyboard, I noted, typing it into the report. Violation of hygiene protocols for secure hardware. Petty? Maybe. Accurate? Yes. At 3:00 p.m. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Area code 703, Northern Virginia. I picked it up on the first ring. Grace, a voice said. It was dry, raspy, and sounded like it belonged to a man who smoked cigars while reading redacted documents. Agent Miller. Agent Miller, I replied. Did you get my email? We did. We're seeing some unusual telemetry from Node 3. Is the device in your possession? Negative. As stated in my email. I was terminated this morning. The device was confiscated by Caleb Roth, VP of Technology, against my express advisement. There was a pause on the line, a long, heavy pause. He confiscated a node? Miller asked, his voice dropping an octave. Does he have the encryption key? No, he's running a guest session. But he's plugged it into the commercial web, and he's loading proprietary files onto it. I heard the sound of a keyboard clacking on Miller's end. Fast, rhythmic. We're seeing a data packet match, Miller said. He's uploading a presentation. The file header contains keywords, defense contract integration. He's pitching to Lockheed tomorrow, I said. He wants to use the laptop as a prop. He's going to demo a live classified node to a third-party vendor. Miller sounded almost impressed by the stupidity. That appears to be the plan. Grace, Miller said, this is a significant breach. Protocol dictates we brick the device remotely immediately. Wait, I said, this was the pivot point. If they bricked it, destroyed it electronically, now Caleb would just say the laptop was broken. He'd blame me for giving him faulty hardware. He'd spin it. He'd survive. If you brick it now, I said, you lose the evidence of intent. He'll claim ignorance. He'll say it was an accident, but if you let him walk into that meeting, if you let him present it, then you have him on espionage and fraud. You have him dead to rights. Silence on the line, I held my breath. I was asking a federal agent to let a security breach continue for the sake of entrapment. It was risky. When is the meeting? Miller asked. Tomorrow, 2:00 p.m., boardroom B, and you have access to his schedule? I built the calendar server, I said. I have access to everything. All right, Miller said, we'll hold fire. But Grace, you're reactivated. Consultant status. Temporary clearance override approved as of. Right now, you are to monitor the asset and ensure no data actually leaves the device. If he tries to email anything out, you kill the connection. Understood, I said. And Grace? Yes, we're going to need a witness on site. Someone to verify chain of custody when we move in. I'm fired, Miller. They won't let me in the building. They won't have a choice, Miller said. I'm sending a team. Ready at 1:00 p.m. tomorrow. The line went dead. I looked at my screen. The employment status field on my HR profile, which I could still see because they hadn't revoked my read-only access to the legacy portal, said terminated. I opened the admin console for my own account. I couldn't change the HR status, but I could update my contact info. I changed my job title from systems administrator to external compliance auditor. I smiled. The trap was set. Now I just had to watch him walk into it. By 9:00 a.m. the next morning, the FinCorp office was effectively burning down. Not literally, though the server room AC unit was probably struggling, but digitally. I sat at my kitchen table, drinking high-quality coffee, not the office swill, watching the help desk ticketing system. I still had the dashboard mirrored on my tablet. It was a waterfall of red. Ticket hash 4092, CFO cannot access payroll folder. Ticket hash 4093, VPN tunnel to Chicago branch down. Ticket hash 4095, urgent CEO email bouncing. You see, what Caleb didn't understand about legacy junk is that it requires care. The authentication servers run a handshake protocol every morning at 8:00 a.m. It requires a manual approval from the lead admin. That's me. I wasn't there to click approve. So the servers assumed the building had been seized by hostiles and went into lockdown mode. I could picture the scene. The sales guys slamming their mice. The traders screaming about lost milliseconds. And Caleb, sweating in his Patagonia vest, trying to explain why the cloud transition was causing the elevators to stop working. Yes, the security badge system was routed through the same auth server, my little design quirk. My phone buzzed. It was Sarah from accounting. Sarah is a good kid. She brings in donuts on Fridays and knows more about the company gossip than the HR director. Grace, oh my God, she whispered. She was clearly hiding in the bathroom. I could hear the echo. Hey, Sarah. Rough morning? Rough, it's the apocalypse. No one can log in. The printers are printing pages of pure black ink. The coffee machine is displaying an error code I've never seen. Caleb is running around screaming that you sabotaged the system before you left. Predictable, I said, buttering a piece of toast. I didn't sabotage anything. I just wasn't there to turn the key. He's telling everyone it's a logic bomb you planted. He's threatening to sue you. Let him threaten, I said. What's he doing now? He's in the boardroom with his assistants. They're trying to get the presentation ready for the lock head guys. But Sarah lowered her voice further. He's using that black laptop, the weird